Hola, bienvenidos, welcome. My name is Olga Loya. Soy un cuentacuentos. I'm a storyteller. And today we're going to play with games, storytelling games. Maybe you're going to tell a few stories. And the first thing that we're going to do is sing a song. And the song goes like this. I'll sing, you sing back, okay? Bienvenidos a todos. Vamos a escuchar. Vamos a contar todos juntos. Welcome, everyone. We are going to listen. We are going to tell all together, all together. So we'll start every time I do my sessions, I will start with that. Now this is a game that we're going to play called Manzana Manzana, apple apple. It has a chant that goes with it, and I'm going to do it, and then I want you to do it after me. I'll teach you it. I was sitting under an apple tree, and all the apples fell on me. Apple pudding, apple pie, did you ever tell a lie? Okay, I'll say it and you say it after me. I was sitting under an apple tree, and all the apples fell on me. Apple pudding, apple pie, did you ever tell a lie? Estaba sentada debajo de un árbol de manzanas cuando todas las manzanas se cayeron encima de mí. Flan de manzanita, pastel de manzanita, ¿has dicho una mentirita? Now I'll say that one and you say after me, okay? Estaba sentada debajo de un árbol de manzanas cuando todas las manzanas se cayeron encima de mí. Flan de manzanita, pastel de manzanita, has dicho una mentirita. Now the way you play this game is somebody gets up in front, like if you're having a family gathering, someone gets up in the front, tells a little short story, and the audience has to decide whether it's true or not. And if they think it's true, they do this. And if they don't think it's true, they do this. So true, not true. So I'm going to tell you 3 little short stories. See if you can tell if they are true or not. First we have to do the chant. Every time before we tell a story, we have to do the chant. So I was sitting under an apple tree, and all the apples fell on me. Apple pudding, apple pie, did you ever tell a lie? And the next time we'll do it in Spanish. So a couple of years ago, I was invited to go tell stories in Asia. I went to Thailand, Cambodia, and Vietnam. I traveled with 20 storytellers, and we told stories in all kinds of places, in libraries and schools, and you name it. And we traveled by car, by bus, and by airplane, from one place to another. There were 8 storytellers from India and Malaysia and Vietnam, all over. And there were a couple from England and then a couple of 2 of us from the United States. It was amazing. We traveled, we had breakfast together, we traveled, we told stories, we had dinner together, we had dinner at all these wonderful places. Now, is this a true story or not? So you show me. Not true. I only went to Thailand. And we did travel by bus and by plane to different places. It's pretty interesting traveling with 20 people at a time to get on a plane. And the people who hired us took care of all the passports and everything. We just went from place to place, and we ate at all these great places. And it was a wonderful experience. I was there for 2 weeks, around 2 weeks. It was kind of hard, though, because that was in February. And in December, I had fallen and fractured my shoulder. I called the surgeon. I said, listen, I have this trip that I want to go on. Can I go? Do you think it'll be all right? He said, well, as long as you don't snorkel or scuba dive, you'll be fine. Oh, I snorkel, but I wasn't going to snorkel, and I don't scuba dive, so that was fine. It was hard, but I did it. So the next story, see if you can tell whether it's true or not. My friends and I were in Mexico, and we were in this little restaurant. We had just finished eating when a man walked in, a young man. He's standing in the front, and all of a sudden we saw that he was pulling a gun. He pulled a gun on the waiter and the cook, and he took them to the back where all the other people were. We were in the front. He robbed everyone, their money, their purses, their jewelry, but he never did anything to my friends and me. A friend of mine and I had rosaries around our neck, and we were praying with the rosaries. Maybe he thought we were nuns or something, but anyway, he never did a thing to us. And he left, and we left. And this is part of a very much longer story. This is a little tiny segment of it. True or not true? True. And then a couple of days later, we left Mexico, and we never did know why he didn't rob us. We just figured maybe because we had those rosaries. He was very nice. He kept patting my friend on the shoulder and saying to eat, and it was all right. But he took everything from everyone else. So anyway, that's a small story, a little story from a longer story. This next one, oh, I forgot to do the chant. Let's do the chant. Estaba sentada debajo de un árbol de manzanas cuando todas las manzanas se cayeron encima de mí. Flan de manzanita, pastel de manzanita, ¿has dicho una mentirita? This next story, I was walking to go do a gig and just thinking about what was I going to do first and second. I wasn't paying attention, and my foot got caught in a crack on the street, and it twisted. And I could hear as I went down, it went click, and it didn't go click. It went ooh. Some people were there, and they helped me to my car, and somehow I got home. And my granddaughter was living with us at the time, so we went to the hospital. And the nurse kept saying, ay, qué buena suerte, with good luck, and buena suerte, with good luck. And I'm thinking, why is she saying I'm good luck? I broke my ankle. I said, why are you saying that? She says, you could have broken your cadera, your hip. So there I am, all psyched out, going, oh, what good luck. I didn't break my ankle. I didn't break my hip. True or not true? True. She completely psyched me out. Here I was feeling so lucky that I hadn't broken my ankle. And that was quite a trial to have my ankle broken and trying to figure out how to get around. And luckily my granddaughter was living with me at the time. I couldn't have chosen a better time to break my ankle. Now I want to do a thing with you called story prompters. I'm going to show you this. The sheet with lots of different ideas for telling stories. Ooh, this way, this way. It's got all kinds of ideas. So I'm going to read you the ideas, and I'm going to tell you a couple that I chose to tell you. So the way you do this sheet is you pick 5 experiences, and then you pick the one that's the best. So first one was something funny that happened in your life. 2, stories your family always tells about you or other family members. 3, a story about the oldest person you know. 4, something that happened in your neighborhood, a different kind of person. Stories. 5, stories about your family, grandmothers, uncles. 6, a story about a trip to another country, best, funniest, scariest, or worst experience. I just told you one about the robbery when I was in another country. I don't know if I mentioned, but I was in Mexico at the time. The most wonderful or terrible person in your life. An adventure by yourself or with someone else. A story about an accident, a scar on your body. A story about your best friend. Memories of favorite parties, Christmas, birthdays, the best time and the worst time. So all of these are possible stories. A special place that you went to visit. A time when you got into trouble. A story about your place into the family and how it affected you. A story about a pet you had or wished you had. Remember a time when you've won or lost something. A story about your favorite relative or least favorite relative. A story about courting, your parents, your own experience, how your parents met, or how you met, if you're older, your partner. A story about you best or worst school experiences. A person who had great influence on you. A lesson you learned from life or someone else. So, I'm going to tell you a few of these stories. Some story that families tell about you or other members in family. How many of you have that, where you have something that happened to you or someone else, and time you get together, the family goes, remember when? Well, that's me. When I was little, I was a consentida, the favorite one. I was the oldest one, and my tias would come and pick my cheeks. Ay, que chula, isn't she great? But then my brother was born. I was 5, and he had just been born, and now he was the one that everybody talked about. And they all talked about his hair. Tenía pelo muy negro. He had very black hair and a big mop of hair. And they'd always say, mira ese niño. Look at his little boy. Mira su pelo. Look at his hair. And they'd look at it and laugh and talk. And I didn't like it. I had been the center of attention. I wasn't the center of attention anymore. And then I thought, if he didn't have his hair, maybe people wouldn't talk about him like that. I know, I'll cut his hair. So I found my mommy's scissors, and I was heading towards his room when my mama caught me. And sometimes when we're sitting around, they'll laugh and say, hey, remember the time when Olga tried to cut Phil's hair? Then I have to hear the story again. I don't know how many times I've heard it. So that's one. So how many of you have stories that they tell about you or somebody in the family? Those are good stories to tell. Let me look another one. Stories about your family. I just learned not too long ago about my grandfather from my father's side, Grandpa Loya. They lived in Mexico, Chihuahua. And this is a whole big story with love story about my grandmother and grandfather, but I'm just going to tell you a little part of it. He was a marshal of Juarez during the Mexican Revolution. And that's Pancho Villa was fighting in the north, and Zapata was fighting in the south. And Pancho Villa would steal from the trains from people to help his army keep going. My grandfather, he was a federalista, embarrassing. But he'd say, ay, ese Pancho Villa es un ladrón, he's a thief. And Pancho Villa didn't like that. So he decided that, and he let it be known that when he got to Juarez, that's where they lived, he was going to hang my grandfather. Well, it's a longer story to this, but my grandfather, he escaped and got to the other side, went to where my grandmother was living, in the house by the river, the Rio Grande. There was Juarez, the Rio Grande, and El Paso. And one night they heard sounds, and all of a sudden they heard, "Salgate de ahí, cobarde! Come out of there, you coward!" My grandpa thought, no, I'm not going to go out there. He took out the rifles and gave them to my older uncles. And my Uncle Ray, who was the one that told the story to my cousin, he didn't know how to shoot, but he knew how to load the guns. And so there was a huge gunfight. And the Visas went away, and then they came back again. There was another gunfight. And finally, my grandparents ended up in East Los Angeles, where they had family. And that's part of that's a small part of a larger story about coming over to the United States and how they got here and what happened. So how many of you have stories about grandparents that came across the border? And in those days, people just crossed the bridge back and forth. There wasn't all this stuff now with having to have passports and having to have papers and papeles y quién sabe más. You just could go from Juarez to El Paso to Juarez, and people did it all the time, didn't think anything of it. Let's see. How much time do I have? Okay. Stories about accidents. How many of you have had an accident or have a scar on your body? Because we carry those stories on our body. We have lots and lots of stories. I have a story about my knee. I have a scar there from when I was in a car accident. One of many. For some reason, I've been in a lot of car accidents, but I was teaching in La Puente at the time, and we were going over to the teacher's aid place, Rosalind and I. She was another teacher. And the next thing I know, my car is up a hill, and it's going whoo with the tires, and Rosalind and I are flat on our backs in the middle of the street. And this young man standing over us going, "Look what you did! Look what you did!" And I can't even concentrate. You can't even, I'm laying there. My knee is bleeding, and Rosalind doesn't even know who she is or her name or anything. And I said, and it started to rain. I said, "We need to get in your car." So we got in the back of his car, and we're bleeding on his car, and he's going, "You're bleeding on my car, look what you did." And he's yelling at us, and I said to him, "If you don't shut up, if you don't be quiet, I'm going to punch you in the nose." I was so mad at him. And a man came by, and he said, "Here, come to my car." So we went to his car. The ambulance came, took us to the hospital. And it turned out that an umbrella stick had gone into my knee. So I have this really pretty interesting scar there. And many years later, I was taking a hot bath. I like hot baths. And I noticed something shiny on my knee. I looked, and there was something sticking out. And I pulled it. It was a little tiny sliver of glass that they had not gotten. Lucky for me that it came out and didn't go the other way and get into my heart and kill me. So that was a scar of a story. I have lots of scars. I have one about a broken hand. I have one about my elbow. Oh my gosh. And when I was little, I was traviesa, so I was always getting into trouble and cutting myself and I didn't really break a whole bunch of stuff when I was little. It was when I was older, it seemed like I broke a lot of stuff. So that's another little story from this list. I'm going to tell you one more, and then, maybe let's see, do I have enough time? No, I don't. Because I want to talk to you a little bit about how to tell a story. When you tell a story, you need to say where you were, place, who the characters were. So in my story, the last story I just told you, Rosalind and I were the characters. When it takes place, it took place when we were going to the teacher's place. Where it took place, the characters. Don't rush a story. When you're telling a story, take your time with it. You don't have to go fast, but lots of times when people first start, they go fast because they want to get off the stage. For me, I go fast lots of times because I talk fast. So I've had to really learn to slow myself down, and it's hard. And I forget sometimes. But I've really been working. And the other thing is use silences. It's like, so we were driving, and all of a sudden the car was whirring up the top of the side of the hill, and we were laying there flat on our back. And then the young man starts yelling at us. Oh, I forgot to tell you that we found out later that he had taken the car without his father's permission. That's why he was freaking out so much. Use different tones. Don't talk the same, say everything the same. So that people can, stay focused with the story. And respect your audience. They want you to do well. They really do. Have you ever been in a place when somebody was doing terribly? Oh, it's so awful. Palms start to sweat. They want you to do well. So that's important to remember for yourself. They want you to do well. So when you're telling stories, remember that. Remember to look at your audience. It's really important. Don't be telling the story and doing this or looking down. Be with your audience. Enjoy them. Let them enjoy you. And the last thing I want to do is a little game called interruption. This is a very good game for focus. So where this game is played, one person gets up and starts telling a story, and another person, it's better to do it with just two people playing, and then you can take turns, other people doing it. So the person's telling the story. There was a girl going down the road, and the person throws in a refrigerator, and you have to take that. She was going down the road, and she saw a man carrying a refrigerator. Cat. And the man opened up the refrigerator, and out jumped the cat. Ice. And the cat, after the cat jumped out, ice came falling down off the refrigerator. Car. And the car was coming in the other direction and almost ran over the cat. And then you keep going that way. You have to stay with the story, and you go with it, with whatever everybody gives you. It's a really good story for focus, for staying focused, what your story is, and who gives you what they give you, and you do the best that you can to stay with the story. It's pretty fun. And it's pretty fun to listen to the story, to watch it go on in different directions. So the way that you play this game is someone's telling a story, they give you a word, and you have to go with that word. No matter where it is or how weird it is, you have to go with it and shift the story to it. And then somebody else gives you another one, you shift the story. Good focus. So I wanted you to think about what we just did. Played Apple Apple. I was sitting under an apple tree and all the apples fell on me. Apple pudding, apple pie, did you ever tell a lie? Estaba sentada debajo de un árbol cuando todas las manzanas se cayeron encima de mí. Flan de manzanita, pastel de manzanita, ¿has visto, ha dicho una mentirita? And also, think about story prompters. There's a whole bunch of possibilities of stories that you can tell. And I told you a few that were just stories that I put in there, and then I have written bigger stories, and all the stories are smaller parts of bigger stories. And then how to tell a story. To remember that you want to go beginning, middle, and end. Beginning is really important. End is really important. The middle you can move around with. The beginning is what you catch your audience with. And the end is what you leave your audience with. So those are very important. So I hope you tell these games, play these games, and tell these stories, and I will see you the next time. And I'm going to sing goodbye. Adiós a todos. Hemos escuchado, hemos contado, todos juntos. Goodbye, everyone. We have listened, we have talked, all together, all together.